So this webinar is going to be on Reader's Advisory Tips and Tricks featuring Novelist. We'll be discussing the basic concepts of Reader Advisory, the basic operation of Novelist, and how to use Novelist to make Reader Advisory look easy. My name's Al Peterson. I'm the Outreach Specialist here at the North Dakota State Library. So have you ever had a patron ask you for a good book to read? It's kind of a subjective question. I mean, what's a good book? It's a good book to the patron. Or you have a patron that's really caught up in a series and wants the next 3 books in the series, and that's completely out of the realm of what you read. What we'll talk about in this is how to answer those questions and other reader advisory questions. So what is reader advisory? Reader advisory involves suggesting titles, either fiction or nonfiction, to a reader through direct or indirect means. Diana Tixter Harold, the author of Genre Reflecting, A Guide to Popular Reading Interests, states that reader advisory is the act of putting people together with the books they love. So there's 2 methods of reader advisory. There's a direct reader advisory and indirect reader advisory. First one I want to talk about is direct reader advisory. This one's a patron-librarian interaction. It's a non-judgmental assessment of the personal preferences of the reader. These transactions usually occur in person, but they can also occur over the phone or through email, chat reference, text, social media, or other ways of communication. Offering help when a patron is having trouble finding a book on your shelves, library shelves, is an opportunity for reader advisory. And I'm sure we've all come across somebody who is looking for something to read. Usually my answer is you've come to the right place if you're in a library. But now we have to go a little further and try to figure out exactly what they're looking for. One way is to ask a series of questions to find out what the reader's likes and dislikes are, including genre, writing style, tone, pace, setting, plot elements, subject, or some other criteria. And really what we're trying to do is connect that reader with the elusive good book. And one way to do it is to listen to cues and clues in that conversation. For example, when someone says, I like this author, is there another similar author? Now that's your clue that they're really looking for a read-alike. Or do you have any books like this one book that I read or this title that I read? That's why you're looking for similar books on, either a particular genre, setting, subject, or plot, or something very similar to what they enjoyed reading before. Another one is if they're those series readers, the ones that need the next 2 books. An example here at the State Library is our Christian fiction, in particular the Amish-themed Christian fiction books. It seems that people read the first one or the second one, they want to read the whole series. And it's not one that I personally read. I don't read Amish Christian fiction myself, but I do want to provide the best service for our patrons, and so I want to make sure that they're going to get those books in that series. Detective and crime stories are another one that seems to be written in series. You think of the Walt Longmire mysteries or the Jack Reacher novels, Women's Murder Club. I mean, people want to read these books in the series in sequence. Sometimes you come across that patron that says, I don't really read much, but I mostly watch TV and movies. And you can recommend books that are based on movies or shows. For example, if they're really big fans of the HBO series Game of Thrones, of course, you can recommend the series Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin, which the show Game of Thrones is based on. Sometimes there's a new movie coming out, something about crayfish. And what they're looking for is the book, Where the Crawdad Sings. And sometimes they don't realize that a movie was based on a book. For example, Fight Club is based on a book by Chuck Palahniuk. Now, indirect reader advisory is passive. It's more directed at a broader audience than just one person. And so probably the most common one is the themed book displays. This is a form of reader advisory. The one on the left is a book versus movie. And as you can see in the picture, they've paired the movie up with the book, and that allows the patron to check out both and read the book and compare it to the movie and see which one they like best. The one on the right is a themed one. This one's on the crime stories, and they've got it decorated with some crime tape and magnifying glass and some clues. And this is probably the most common indirect reader advisory. Another really common one are the reading lists on bookmarks. The one on the left is just simply cardstock with genre and then books listed underneath that. And then the one on the right is kind of a fun way to get staff involved. This is a staff recommendation. So these are all the books that Kim recommended. And again, these are forms of indirect reader advisory. One we do here at the State Library are genre spine labels. We have these stickers that we put on our large print books, our large print fiction books. And as you can see in the picture here, we've got Christian fiction, romance, historical, Western, and suspense. And this allows the patron to browse our large print collection and be able to select books based on their reading interest. Another opportunity for indirect reader advisory is using your social media. This one is a screenshot of our Facebook page. And this is our list of new books that are available. And then other ways you could do indirect reader advisory. Some libraries do have a dedicated newspaper column or space in a local newspaper. It's an opportunity to do recommended reading in that column. Your library newsletter, again, you can have a column of recommended reading or staff recommendations. Your library website, again, you can have that section on that website that can list your recommended reading. Or public access catalogs. Some public access catalogs will allow you to upload a digital copy of the front cover of books, and you can use that almost as a virtual display. So there's just some other ways you can do indirect reader advisory. Now, how do you learn about all these different materials? In a perfect world, we would all have all the time in the world to sit down with a big stack of library journal and go through all the reviews, but we're all too busy to do that. And so there's Novelist, and Novelist is a comprehensive reader advisory solution. This database is an EBSCO product and is brought to you for your use by the North Dakota State Library. And Novelist will help you answer that question from the patron, what should I read? And I'm going to go to the Novelist demonstration. This is the North Dakota State Library's homepage. And Novelist is going to be found on the online library resources. I want to take a quick detour here and talk about LibGuides, because in our LibGuides under literacy, we do have a section on reader advisory and reference services. And on this, we have some resources about reader advisory. We have a link to WebJunction's course catalog on reader advisory. We have some other resources, some reading lists on this LibGuide as well. We do have a section on Novelist. And I want to point out that we do have a link to some Novelist YouTube videos. Also some promotional materials. If you're a North Dakota library, you can click on this link. It'll take you to our forms for our different bookmarks, and you can order them through the North Dakota State Library. We also have some things on reading levels as well. So I just want to point out that we do have this LibGuide on reader advisory. Also, there's a section on reference services if you want to review that as well. I'm going to click back to the North Dakota State Library, and I'm going to get into the online library resources. And I'm going to scroll down till I find Novelist. Now, if you haven't spent any time on Novelist, I recommend just playing with this database. You're going to find a lot of cool features and information on this database. It does have a search box. And you could search by keyword, title, author, or series. Also included on the website is some recommended reading lists. This is broken out by adult, teen, tween, and children. And they have these things that they call them appeal mixers. And again, these are broken out by adult, teen, tween, and children. But you can also create your own. And so if you select, I'm just going to guess here, we're going to do storyline, action-packed, click on find titles, and you're going to create your own list like that. I can see how this might be helpful for a bookmark or a display or just making recommendations. Down below, you can browse by genre. And then they also have a lot of other information on the database. You got book club resources. And this is everything from starting book clubs to maybe mixing up your book club, getting some other ideas for book clubs. Books in the media. And so that you could look up, find out what books are being talked about on television shows, radio shows. Pages screen, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. Diversity resources. So again, this is all kind of interesting things to explore. Exploring theme, there's a reader advisory toolbox, and you can also search by award winners. So that's kind of a little bit about the front page of the database. I'm actually going to search by an author. And for my example, I'm going to search for Nora Roberts. And so the description has a little bit about her writing style. Has about the genre, the storyline. Right next to it are your read-alikes. And so if you have that patron says, I really, really like Nora Roberts, but I'm kind of getting burned out on her, can you recommend another author? Well, here you have your read-alikes. And so you can recommend one of these other authors. When you get down to the books, they default to the newest available. And again, you have title read-alikes and author read-alikes that you can click into. And the reason why I selected Nora Roberts is for this feature, series. For those familiar with Nora Roberts, you know that she writes in a lot of series. And so, for example, I'm just going to click on the McGregors. And you'll notice that under series, it tell you what book 1 is, book 2, book 3, book 4. So if you have books 1 through 3 in your library, that patron's really involved with that series, you can get the titles for the rest of the series to do your interlibrary loans with. In addition, I want to point out these read-alikes. These read-alikes are not only read-alikes for Nora Roberts, they're read-alikes for the McGregor series. So if you have somebody who read the whole series, they're really interested in it, but they want to read somebody else that's similar to that series, you can use these read-alikes to do some reader advisory recommendations. There is an advanced search. This allows you to do Boolean searching. It has a few more operators that you can choose from. And it also allows you to do some limiting. And some of these tabs at the top, you've got browse by. You can browse by genre, appeal, themes, or award winners. Your quick links, articles. These are all articles about reader advisory, book club practices. So you can do some research just from this database on the topic of reader advisory. Book club resources. This is very similar to what I showed you earlier. They do have the celebrity book clubs. Some links to some blogs. Genre guides. The one I want to point out is Page to Screen. The cool thing about this one, it's not only is it saying what books are being made into TV shows and movies, it also tells you what platform they're going to be on. So Prime Video, Netflix, Disney Plus, BBC, whether or not it's coming out into the theater, when it's coming out in the theater. How Do I is going to have the most common questions, but there's also a more a little bit more detail in the help screen as well. It talks not only how do I, but how to search the page itself. So my recommendation, and what I did at the reference desk, if I had a little bit of downtime, is I just played around with Novelist. For the most part, our patrons here at the North Dakota State Library went in, browsed the shelves for themselves. But every once in a while, I would have somebody that I would definitely use Novelist to help me find that person, their reading material. Okay. Let me go back to my PowerPoint here. If you're interested in diving in a little further in reader advisory, I do have a short bibliography there of some resources that we do have at the State Library. We do have all three of these books that you can check out through us. Again, I'd recommend looking at a LibGuide as well. And here's our contact information for the main reference desk. You can contact us at 1-800-472-2104, or the direct number is 701-328-4622, or by email at statelib@nd.gov if you have any questions about Novelist or any other databases. And let me give you my contact information. It's 701-328-4622 or Al Peterson at nd.gov. Okay, well, thanks for attending.